for having me back again. Yesterday was such a blast.
We should say thank
Yeah, it
you,
was.
and you should see all the love you got on the thread I posted in the CrossFit
Oh,
group. So many about Yield is so amazing.
oh, I'll have to go check that out. I'm terrible with social media. It's like I'm so intrigued by behavioral awareness and watching things and education and putting out educational posts that I kind of forget to like go on social media and like I never just scroll and see what's out there. So like unless someone tags me in something, I don't see it. I'm terrible.
I'm the other way
I
around.
see it, but much later.
I sit too much and refresh. But I'm trying to get my social media to grow, to spread some education as well through my posts.
A book that you're hoping to come out in 2026?
Yeah, I hope it will come out, and I'm preparing to start a company I can sell the book from as well, so it will be taken more seriously as well.
Oh, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to read it.
I write a lot of English, but I wrote this one in Swedish because we don't really have any kind of books like the Chicken Health Handbook.
We don't have any.
We don't have.
Oh my goodness!
They are
really
combined. The Swedish books are usually combined in chicken books. It's like one chapter of ducks, then it's like.
Oh wow!
So we don't have any only duck book.
Yeah, I will write. It will be chicken, ducks, and geese, and I will go much into like you talk a lot about behavior and such like that, and how it is to have bachelor flocks. As well, step by step, how you should put up a bachelor flock. And I have, like I said to you, that I have taken a lot from the guide from Rooster Allies and translated that and made it my own as well. So I used Rooster Allies as a source and the text that you have written as well.
Yeah. We all learn from somewhere, like we all just gotta like take our collective knowledge from all the great places online and combine it. It's interesting that you were saying that there's a lot more information, it sounds like, on ducks maybe out there, but not as much on chickens. Is that like a thing? Are there more ducks in Sweden? I'm very unfamiliar.
Other way around that, the chickens, there's a lot more facts on chickens, but only chicken as livestock, not a lot of books as chicken as pets.
Okay.
And I really like the Chicken Health Handbook because it goes in depth. I don't know if you have read the Chicken Health Handbook. I know a lot of people have that book on hand, and that goes so much more into medical knowledge and that we have in our books. Because most of the books is like, here is one breed, there's one breed, they lay that amount of eggs, they lay that amount of eggs.
It's like basic.
Little awesome. Well, great.
But I know I talked with you yesterday about the differences between bachelor drakes and bachelor roosters, and thought it would be really interesting to compare them to, because bachelor drakes, they are like 90% of the year they can coexist. You can throw in another drake and it will be no issue. But during mating season like it's now, you gotta be prepared to put the bachelors into pairs, and you really gotta have that perfect personality duo with each other, who works with who, and split them up. So like I have fencing everywhere now, because they will not work together during this 10% of the year. There is a lot of things is like dominance. They don't fight, but it's they do the mating thing on each other, and they get wounds on the neck if they do it too much, and it's just a lot of stress for the ones the lowest in the pecking order. But from what I understand on roosters, they coexist a lot better the whole time of the year. Or do they get a bit more feisty during the mating season as well?
So yeah, with roosters, there isn't necessarily like a larger mating season. They do mate, periodically throughout the whole year. But when the hens are usually ready to start, becoming broody in the springtime, that's when roosters' hormones are going to kind of have a spike, and so that's when things will become a little bit more rowdy. The boys will start, mating more, chasing more, getting a little bit more stressed and anxiety or anxious, as it were. So it's more like a short period of time. It sounds kind of similar in that you I guess the drakes have a particular mating season. So I am curious, when you say you pair them up into twos for the drakes, and will they still do the mating behaviors with each other, but they're happy because they have their mate? Is that how that works?
I pair them up depending on, because one drake only wants to dominate one certain drake, so I like split them up so what the drake works with who. So if I have the perfect dynamic like I have now, it will not be any dominance mating between the pairs. But
Okay.
if I have both the pairs free ranging with each other, and they chase. It's like ducks being greyhounds, like running. I have runner ducks, so they run and run and run around.
You just need something like swoosh, just passed.
They are so crazy, but what I'm not that familiar with the bachelor roosters per se, but I usually say to people that they should be careful because roosters can kill each other if they do start a fight. Do you agree with that?
Yes, certainly. Usually it doesn't end in death. It's oftentimes more just small abrasions to the comb or the wattles. The times when it turns into death, it's usually more out of stress. Like another rooster is terrorizing one and chasing him, and they can have heart attacks pretty easy sometimes, and especially with like the flogging, if their spurs are not, blunted and they're nice and sharp, they can get each other right in the chest, which is, if you get it right through the right rib, you're going towards some vital organs. The heart is kind of right there. So that's a very rare case. And certain breeds are a little bit more defensive, I would say. I hate to use the word aggressive because it's such a popular word used to say, for roosters, and I'm just very much against that word. But they will be a little more defensive of their hens. But it's mostly just, comb, wattle injury, something small like that. Usually they back down very quickly. There's usually one rooster and the other one just says, you know what, it's not worth it. And they run off and they just stay on the other side of the area for the most part.
I have when my rooster changed their pecking order due to me having an outbreak of respiratory disease, I had my two boys fighting to determine who should be on top, and they just teared their crest out. They were so bald, looking so silly. But they did settle who should be in charge. I think a lot of people forget that they do need to settle, or else they will just continue fighting and fighting. Have you had any issues with your having to change around in your bachelor flocks who should be with who?
Yeah, so I've had Wilbur pretty early from the beginning. He kind of was the one to start my bachelor flock, and he's always been the head rooster. But there has been, a time or two where somebody will challenge him, or if say I'm trying to introduce someone like Duchess or Fred, who used to be outside with the hens, and I was like, hey, let's, I'll just get along. And they're just like I was saying in the last podcast. Sometimes there are just certain people that we as humans don't get along with. Wilbur will really not get along with Fred, and he could work it out with Duchess. And I'll get into that in a minute. But he has just got something about Fred. Like when he sees him, it's like his eyes go red. He loses his mind. If I'm carrying Fred around him, Wilbur, he can't jump more than like a foot in the air. The poor guy's got, a bad hip and everything. But, he'll try and flog up at me trying to get to Fred. And I'm like, buddy, that's your mom you're hitting. So I've never
Aw.
really been able to successfully integrate those two, which, you just make it work. Fred usually was always out with the hens. He's now inside just because he's been a little bit sick. He's roller coaster. But I just keep them separated. They have different parts of the house that they roam in. Now, Duchess, though, he would challenge Wilbur. Pretty much anybody when they first join the flock will want to challenge somebody unless they're really, a scaredy and, low on the totem pole. And so Duchess would challenge my lead, Wilbur. But Wilbur would very, very quickly, he just overtakes everybody. It's not even that Wilbur is a prized fighter or anything. I cannot stress it enough when I say it's all about personality. Wilbur is a crossbeak, so he can't even peck the other chickens. And he's got a wry tail, so his hip is off, and after just one or two jumps, he gets a serious limp, where he's can almost barely walk, but he will not let up. He just has the personality of the head roux, and that's, his focus. So when him and Duchess would go at it, very quickly Duchess would give up and say, "Oh my gosh, this was not worth it. This guy's going crazy." But Wilbur will just, follow him until Duchess is cowering in a corner and still trying. Wilbur's exhausted. He can barely stand, but he's still trying to jump on, Duchess to say, I'm in charge. And as much as I probably could have them together for their own specific reasons, I have a very weird flock with all special needs, I had to separate them because it was Duchess is already very high stress, and I actually thought when he was outdoors that he was going to pass from a heart attack. So just being attacked by Wilbur, he was very quickly, under 2 minutes, not even of just watching them pair up, line up against each other. He was breathing so hard and panting that I was like, he's going to have a heart attack. It's not worth it. So those were the two that I always had trouble with, that I could never integrate into my bachelor flock, and kind of for different reasons. But everyone else generally comes in much easier. And I do think it is easier if they are younger as well.
I have never really had an issue with silky roosters. They always seem really easy to integrate as having many roosters. I had 5 at the most at one point, and it was never an issue. But you have one silky, right? Or do you have 2?
I'm terrible with breeds. I do have one silky. He's a little bantam. He's not even 2 pounds. And then I have another one who is I guess they call it a silky frizzle showgirl naked neck. He's got no feathers here, and and the big thing up top. But he's got feathers that come out and go up. So he's got a frizzle frazzle or something like that in him. So I guess they're both silkies, right? Would you call that both silkies?
I have a question. Who does the silkies? Who are their pen pals? Who are they together with?
Best buddies. So they're in the main bachelor flock. Yeah. So I have. It was 5. Go ahead.
Is it the same size? The bachelor flock?
No, they're the top 2 are Wilbur, and then he's a regular standard size. He's a Buff Orpington Americana. And then the next one, his number 2 is General, I call him, is Donnie. And he's a dual purpose bird. I believe he's of the Ranger variety. So he is heavy. I have to watch his weight. He's I want to say
how does it work?
Yeah, over 9 pounds.
Big and
it
small
works
in
phenomenal.
The same group.
Yeah, because the other 2, they're both under 1,000 grams. They're both very tiny, but it works phenomenal for them together. Because they're not fighting. Every morning they have all the excitement, and I put them all down, get them all out, because again they're indoors. They got diapers, but they do the little shuffle dance for the bigger ones, shuffle dance the younger ones, and the younger ones go hoo-ah, and they just kind of walk a few paces out of the way or dodge out of the way. and none of the bigger ones, they won't actually peck the little ones. They just shuffle dance real close to them to say, "I could if I want to," you know. But yeah, they get
That's
along
amazing.
phenomenal.
I know that
Yeah.
Emily is really inspired to start a bachelor flock because she does a lot of rescue, and when people,
They
I'm
just
going to
throw
call this
roosters at
rooster,
me.
she comes and pick them up.
Yeah, they're just throwing roosters
Fun
at me,
part.
so I'm like, I can't say no.
Yep, definitely after my
Thankfully,
own
it
heart.
has just been silkies so far. So,
Oh, okay.
and I know from Michelle's side that you can have multiple silkies together, so without hens. But it was really nice to hear that it can actually work with several breeds.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I've had no problems whatsoever. Like I said, this over 9 pound chicken could easily crush my 1 pound boy, but it, they're nice. It's about it's honestly, it's more about their personalities than it is about their size. Because my tiny itty bitty little Silky, when I had another rescue that was a crossbeak, he was a Brahma, so he was big and tall and long, and they got along fine. But when I first introduced them, that little Silky, he wants to run the world, and so he and the Brahma were actually sizing up, and they were playing leapfrog. The Silky would jump up over, land on the Brahma's back. The Brahma would go, "Where'd he go?" And he'd turn around real fast. The Silky would fall off, and then he'd go to peck him, and the Silky would run under his legs, and he would jump up in the air. It was hysterical, but I'm like, why do the little ones feel that they need to go and find like the biggest man in the yard to take down? But it all works out in the end.
I feel like your roosters need their own cartoon or diaries or something.
yeah,
It
oh
would
yeah.
be so fun to watch.
I would really love
Yeah.
to see that.
But
I certainly don't need as much like television or other kind of entertainment because I could just watch them all day. They're so adorable.
I
Yeah,
could
that goes for
sleep
like
in my
both
coop.
ducks and the chickens. Yeah, I actually have a set of cafe chairs and table in my duck runs, and well, as soon as I'm getting one for my chickens, we actually sit there drinking the morning coffee.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of times I would have chairs out there too, but I actually started preferring to sit on the ground on their level. I feel like they're more comfortable, especially when I was trying to work with roosters, to just come up and, kind of inspect you on their level. And they realize that you're just sitting there, you're just doing your own thing, you're not moving fast, and they can come up. My Duchess, when he was outside, I have a video of him, he'd come up from behind, like roosters are wont to do when they think you're going to attack you. But he was just curious, and he just scratching and pecking at my back, like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it?" And I was like, I'm gonna just be calm, buddy. This is your way of talking to me because you don't have, hands. You can't communicate, and so the only way for them to really communicate is, with their wing flappings or kicking you, or they're mostly their beak. They can make noises, obviously, but that is another big thing. Is people I'll often see behaviors that are like attacking, or they're fast, or call them violent or aggressive, and I'm like, well, how else are they going to really communicate? They can't tell you, "Hey mom, stop, I have a question about this predator over here," or, "Hey, you forgot to fill this food bowl and it's pretty upsetting since I have to find treats for the hens." And I'm like, they can't just raise their hand and tell you about it. They have to kind of get your attention. And as oftentimes we're caretakers, we're walking through, their pens and their areas, and they think, "Oh, she's leaving. We got to tell her now." They might kick you from behind and say like, wait, stop, or peck you. And you're like, and we kind of have to change that dialogue between, us being startled and going, "Oh my gosh, he was trying to attack me." And instead change our minds to say, "Oh my gosh, stay calm." And then just ask him, "What is it, buddy? Like, what are you trying to communicate to me? What are you trying to tell me?" Because very, very few times is the rooster ever actually trying to attack you for any reason that's malicious or that he's afraid of you. Usually they're trying to communicate something else that's going on.
I feel like I
That's
need
really sad here.
Go, Emily.
That's really sad because here in Sweden, it's still that mindset about the chickens just being like livestock and just before this meeting, Michelle showed me someone wanting to rehome a rooster because he was aggressive, and
I guess children.
that's too common, and they don't think about the personalities, or even I don't even think that they are aware that roosters have so much to do in a flock. That when we spoke yesterday about all the things a rooster had to do, and they just say plain and simple, he's just aggressive, he just attacked my kid, he's running after, we need to kill him.
Wouldn't be afraid of a little child coming like,
oh yeah, I'm like running away now.
But I feel like I need to record when my rooster is never like ferociously attacking me. He likes to pull my pant leg or flog my boot or something. And hearing what you're saying, I would be really curious to what you read into the situation, because what I learned from Rooster Allies that his aggression stems a lot from insecurity, because he was dethroned as top rooster last year, and he kind of kept a lot of that insecurity that he would be overthrown once more. And he's pretty happy being second now because the younger boy took in command, but he still kept a lot of that insecurity.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, can you imagine how upset we get, in the workplace when somebody gets promoted over us and we've been there for so long, and all of the gossip and drama and feelings that go into that when you're like, I deserve that job. I put in all that work, at this team. I built it up. I made the relationship, and this new person comes in and they're my boss. So all of those same feelings, chickens are also so emotional. They can be very intelligent. They can be very emotional. So all those things going through don't just disappear. Even eventually we're like, okay, I'm okay with this guy, my boss. We're all right now. We're friends. But you still always have a little bit of that in you because you still did all of that work and put in all of that effort. And these were your girls. This was my flock. So it doesn't just kind of disappear overnight, but they have such complex social structures that they do work on it. And your boy that's like grabbing the pant leg or the boots, that's very common too. And a lot of times it's just for attention. Sometimes they're not getting, maybe enough love from the hens, or perhaps not enough respect from the other rooster. And so they're looking for their caretaker for kind of that extra thing that's missing from them. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's wrong in the environment. It could just be, Emily's got a big smile on her face, like she wants to say something.
Yeah, that's so cute. That's so cute. It's like tugging on your pants,
mommy,
like,
mommy.
mommy. I just have to say something real quick. My rooster that I started all the chicken stuff with, he actually had a specific way of saying that I need attention. He was standing in front of us, and if we still ignore him, he jump up on my foot, and just sits there. So until I pick him up.
Aww, that's so precious. You can't go anywhere until you acknowledge my presence, Mom.
But the way you describe that he needs attention, because the last few weeks I have seen a big change in him, because he started to accept me more, and the only thing that have changed is that I do cuddle him more, I do pick him up. And he do relax and do the smacking with the beak and relax and almost fall asleep. Like, this is the rooster that I had as a little baby that I have not seen for a long time. But before I forget, I want to bring up, because this myth, I fell for this myth as well, to that roosters should not have that much calcium in their feed, and we see the layer feed in the stores and think this gotta be safe for our roosters. And no one really talks about that roosters should not have layer feed. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna remember. We'll go back to that, but I just want to make one more point: is that when you have that rooster that's looking for your attention, it doesn't necessarily always have to be cuddles or being picked up and held. So my rooster Duchess has always hated being held, and he's gotten better with it. He likes it now, but very much only on his terms, like maybe once a week, But so I will be in the the room with him and around him, and if I'm on my phone, even if I'm laying down and he's laying on my back or on my shoulder or whatnot, if I'm on my phone, he gets down, comes over, and he does a dance right in front of my face, like right up to it. And he says, I'm not kidding you. He waits for me to put my phone down, and then he takes 2 steps and sits in front of me, and he preens himself. And I'm like, you wanted me to put my phone down just to stare at you, and that's what he wants. He just wants me to be present, and I can't touch him. We can't hold him. He doesn't want cuddles. He just wants me to be present and staring at him and showing him that I'm paying him his due respect and the attention that he deserves.
I know that you talked. There's a post in Rooster Allies specific about this topic. When is it good to pick up your boy during an attack? And I think it's you that wrote it, because how you pick up your rooster determines a lot as well, because it could be really traumatic for them. And I never really reflected, like most people take the roosters like this, and that's how a hawk grips their prey. So I started, I like scooping up my boys from under and pick them up more than trying to grip from the side. But I think it's a really good point, because I really didn't really understand until I read this post as well, that even if they calm down when they pick them up, they can still be thinking about that traumatic moment when you tried to catch them. So it was a really reflecting moment for me to, like you said, to pick up the roosters on their terms if they want to be picked up.
And that was a big change for me with my rooster that hates to be, held, is I didn't have a great way to kind of bond with him, because to me, as a human, my bonding and my love language, as it were, is physical touch. I want to pick them up. I want all my other roosters, I'm kissing all over their combs. We're doing snuggles. I'm getting them pets, all that stuff. And so I'm like, how do I learn to bond with Duchess, who doesn't want any of this? And I just had to start to really look at what he wants and respect. He doesn't like to be picked up. That's fine. Okay, so what does he want? He wants me to just be around. He wants us that we go on walks outside. I'll open up the door and we'll just walk out the house and do whatnot. And he wants me to just pay attention. He wants me to be around. If he can go out and dust bathe, he wants me to come with him. He wants me to watch him dust bathe. So it is kind of just a matter of finding what works. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but what works with their personality, because they're all so different. And so I apologize. I will go back to the original question, which was the calcium. And this wasn't something that I started to research. It was actually something that some of our other members and leaders and past experts have done. So I'm not like the most well-versed in all the technical terms, but yes, you're absolutely correct. There is too much calcium in layer feed for roosters. It can cause gout and problems for them later on. So we really recommend something with a lower calcium, which is often called an all-flock or a maintainer feed. And unfortunately, again, one of the reasons why this isn't more common knowledge or out there is because roosters are disposable. Nobody wants roosters. They don't lay eggs. They're extra. They're just meant to be, disposable security and to be eaten. It's just how people have seen them over the years. So I'm actually really kind of if we're going to pull the silver lining out of things like maybe say COVID, I'm really glad that those things happened because people got all these backyard flocks. I'm not glad COVID happened, but it made people have more backyard flocks, which meant more people were getting into chickens, and more people means they're loving them and seeing them as pets and how complex they are. And while a lot of people say, oh, it's harming more chickens because people kind of give up when they realize they're also really complicated, it's also doing so much for them. So we are going to get to that point where we're going to see roosters, not as the stigma that they have been, and hopefully have a lot more types of all flocks or maintainer breeds out there. Especially, chickens are like a gateway drug for animals. It's just going to turn into, okay, now we're going to get ducks, now we're going to get goats. So having those kind of multiple types of feed that will work for other animals is going to just be beneficial. And I feel like the way we're all kind of shifting.
What I know Emily is as well. We are kind of jealous of, because in America you have such a wide range of feed to choose from. Because our all flock do have 2% of calcium, and still that is too much for a rooster. So the closest we have is the grower feeds in calcium. Okay. It's the closest we can get to a normal rooster feed. So I do. It looks like kind of like the chick starter. It's those little crumble smash thingies. But I gave mine layer feed for many years before I joined this group and learned this. So I'm like, oh shit, I need to change this.
Yeah, and it doesn't always, it's not every single rooster that eats layer feed his whole life is going to, get gout or die an early death. But unfortunately, there also hasn't been a lot of studies and research onto why did my rooster die? Nobody cared in the past. So we are seeing a lot more of those kind of studies and things emerge to find out, okay, well, does it affect certain breeds more, or what is the reason why they don't process the calcium like the hens do? Or is it just that the hens it all, shift over to the reproductive tract for the egg making? There's just there's so many variables in that, and I'm again not a scientist, but I do see that kind of trending in that direction. And I will say I agree that it is very difficult. I have friends who are like in Australia and other countries as well, where they have trouble finding things like oyster shell, because oyster shell is used for the extra calcium that hens can pick up when you're feeding the rest of the flock, the all flock. So when they need calcium, they go and eat it. And they even have trouble finding grit. I was to the point where I was on, the Australian website too, and me and my friend were looking, and I was like, is there just a stream nearby that you could just go dig up some rocks? Because she couldn't find anything. So it definitely is a problem.
We don't have that much of a grit supplement as well. We do have one company. Else, the most of the poultry companies sell this gravel that's made for shoveling your driveways instead. Oh. And I'm like, I'm not gonna use this for my bird. I'm gonna buy a bit more expensive one that's made for chickens. So I know what my chickens are getting into themselves. And because this grit is not marketed for chickens as well. So I think it's wrong to sell it like that. But I wanted to mention that with Australia, because I have been supporting the account I Love Chickens a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's pretty
I'm familiar.
She have had a lot of vitamin A deficiency due to the crappy feed in Australia, because there is so lacking feed. So she had taken her chickens to the vet several times to get vitamin A injection, because they were so low in their vitamin A deposits, or I should say. Most likely because the feed does not contain the right amount of vitamin A. I know our Swedish feed do have a lot of vitamin A, like it should have. But I still don't kind of trust the feed manufacturer, because the feed manufacturers do market chicken feeds being good for ducks and geese, but when it's not, because it does not contain enough niacin. And people, but why can my duck not walk? Because it doesn't have enough niacin. You're giving it chicken feed.
Yeah, and it's really crazy as well too that a lot of these feeds, while the people who are making them, I don't know, all the different brands and producers, but a lot of people, before backyard chickens became so much more popular, they were more geared toward production type setups. So chickens or hens, will say, that were only going to live, after maybe a year, and then they usually call them because they're not laying an egg every day. So it's a very different kind of perspective from, a backyard flock saying, well, what is this feed? Is this going to be good for them long term? Or is this, just something that people were, throwing and making out there for, a short term, kind of production hen that's only going to live for a few years before they cull it? So there's just so much more to be explored with chickens. Yeah. And I've been I would love to somehow get into our colleges for like veterinary places and get the students really interested in chickens, because they're going to be the ones of the future that are going to be able to start funding and writing research papers, their thesis, becoming, their doctorates, and getting funding and grants for these kinds of issues that we haven't really looked at or faced yet, because roosters weren't important, or chickens, who cares if it dies after, 3 years? We'll get another one, another chick for 3 cents. Everybody loves babies. So I'm really trying to hopefully find a way to instill that in the younger generations, and particularly the medical group.
I always try to encourage people that have had sudden death in their flock to always do an autopsy, because you could learn as an owner, and you could potentially save the rest of your flock. I have done it 2 times, and one time I did not really get an answer to why, and the other time was on my drake that had a staph infection that went septic, so it went really fast.
Oh no!
But one was a rooster that had a severe inflammation in his gut, but they could not say why he had such a severe inflammation in his gut. And his kidneys failed due to this inflammation in the gut. But we never got to figure out why this inflammation arose in the first place. It was not coccidiosis, I think you say it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. There are some things that sending to an actual professional company to do a necropsy on are worth, because they can do, if you think it's contagious, infection or something that didn't seem to present in a way that you are familiar with. But I agree that doing your own necropsy on your animals is so educational. I do it on even ones that I know passed for, someone who was having, seizures, or, the hen that had water belly cancer or something. Reasons even that I know, every time I do a necropsy, I am still learning something, and in some way it's every chicken's a little bit different, their anatomies, and I've been able to use kind of that information to help me with the rest of my chickens. So Fred, as you guys are familiar with at this point, has that chronic sinusitis. He's always, got infection up in the nose and the eyes and the ears, and I didn't quite have a great idea of how all of that was connected. It's kind of like humans in an ear, nose, throat sort of way, and there weren't a lot of great diagrams. They were maybe black and white drawings. So when one passed, I really went through and opened up and looked at, see how all that stuff was connected. And it has helped me massively with Fred, because it helped me learn how I can clear out those areas and make it more comfortable for him, since he can't be on antibiotics. He's resistant and all those other things. But so I also look at it as it's another way for, if it's a beloved pet too, to kind of go through your grieving process with them. You kind of, bond with them, and then you say, okay, let's not make not their death was useless, but let's see what we can bring positively from your passing. You can probably, help other chickens in the flock or something like that.
I think
I definitely encourage everyone.
I think that every time I lose a bird, I even if I have trouble to find something positive out of it, I do find something positive. What can I learn from this? from my latest bird that passed from E. coli, I looked at my water containers and figured out that I wasn't cleaning my water containers properly. I need to clean them better, and I started this whole new routine I do every evening, because I figured that E. coli mostly comes from contaminated water. So I figured it could have been that. And like I lost one to a predator, and we got our dog because I lost her, because I know dogs do protect from predators. So we always find something that we can learn from.
Yeah, they're still giving back. It's part of their legacy, even after they're gone. The things that they can still teach us and show us, and even if it's just for us to heal through our grief, and practice being able to identify where organs are, they're always still giving back. It is so important to have that positive mindset.
Have you ever done an necropsy up to the head area and see how much the chicken eye is integrated to the skull?
It's huge.
Yeah, because my
skull is their eye.
I wanted to bring that up because my girl that has glaucoma, we took up the option of removing the eye, but my vet said that no vet in Sweden will remove the eye because you have to break up their skull to get out the eye, and it would be so painful for the animal, so no surgeon will do this. And I just wanted to check with you if you have seen that, how huge the eye is behind it. It's so little part that we see.
And it's amazing. Like, it's not even that it's not even oval where it's just like top. It's so thick. It goes so far back into their head. Like I swear on the bantams, I think like their two eyes must like be touching each other from how big they are. It is wild. And from a surgical standpoint, I have no idea because I don't know how they would disconnect the eye. Maybe there's, blood vessels and sources back there. But because I've seen they do deflate. They have a lot of liquid in them. So if you do, kind of graphic, but you can, when you're trying to remove it, you can kind of pop it and pull, it through. But I'm assuming in a surgical standpoint, that's not something you would want to do.
But luckily enough, her pressure is under control now. But we have been to the point that it's most likely we can't do anything else beside medication to help her.
Yeah, and that's honestly where the best caretakers come in. Like, you guys are just working with palliative care, what you can do for them. It's the same thing I'm doing for Fred. You just got to give them the best life that you can.
Yeah, it's good to say. But I don't know if you have anything else. If we could touch on so many topics. Do you have anything to ask her, Emily?
No, but Jill made me realize something about a behavior. I think it was yesterday, and it's my little crossbeak guy. He usually wanders around a few steps behind me every evening, actually, and it was like normal yesterday. When I see him, I try to like, oh, hey guy, and just want to cuddle, but then he just walks just out of reach. So it's like that
no touchy
far, I can't reach him. Yeah, no touchy mom. So what you said about your rooster that didn't want to be picked up, so you had to get down on his level and see what he wanted to show you and what he wanted. When you said that, I remembered that my little guy, he likes to follow me around, and that's his way of spending time with me. He just walks with me and see what I do. He loves to see that my routine in the evening when I make the breakfast bowls for every flock I have for the morning, and he just walks with me through the stall. And I haven't been thinking about why he does that before, so that was really an eye-opener for me.
Yeah, he's also probably protective of you. You're his his hen, his mama, he loves you. And even when I'm indoors, if I should get a video of it one day. If wherever I go, any room, any area, I've got a trail, a whole train of roosters behind me. They want to be in your presence. They want to follow you. They want to be with what you're doing. But he might also be realizing it, because I never try to. They're so smart that you're busy, and you're the lead mama brew, and you're doing the jobs and your chores and whatnot. And one of the reasons why maybe he doesn't want to be picked up just then is because he's filling that maybe perhaps number 2 role of, now the king is busy, and so I'm the number 2. I need to watch out for predators, make sure nothing's going to come get her while she's doing her chores and doing her business. So it could be a multitude of things, but to me that kind of sounds like that kind of behavior, that he's just making sure you're okay, watching out for things. And if you picked him up and cuddled him at that moment, he might not feel like he could then protect you, that he's like, well, wait, I have to be on perimeter checking everything. So it could be, it's one of those reasons. Yeah.
One other thing about him is that he isn't necessary with the rest of his flock when they are all outside. The hens and my main leader rooster, they are walking together as they usually do. But this one, he's like walking all over the whole front yard.
A daydreamer, like I call them.
Yeah, he's like he's not scared or stressed alone. He's just walking slowly and looking at stuff. Oh, eating something there, drinking from a puddle there. I mean, he's like I don't think he's ever been so. He needs to be with his flock. Is that common in roosters, that some actually prefer to be outside a bit more?
Definitely. So like I know that broken record of their personalities are all so different. My lead rooster, Wilbur, I call him, he's a little simple. He's not as high anxiety. He's not super intelligent. He does the same thing. Like, he walks around and he'll just be like, I'm going to drink from this puddle, and oh, look at that over there. And I don't feel like the parts of his life, the minutes are connected. I think it's just I'm existing, and then something happens, and then I'm existing, and then something, it's not like a fluid stream of consciousness, whereas Duchess, my really high stressed and high intelligent rooster, he kind of prefers to be distant from, when he was with the hens, he would he'd take a perch up high, and he wouldn't go necessarily always engage in any activities with them or walk them around. He would just be like, I want to be on my own, and I want to watch what everyone's doing, sort of thing. But
cool.
The other point too is that this is, I think our other admin, Sarah Franklin, wrote a post about this a long time ago, how the evolution of chickens, and so in the wild, I guess, from what she was saying, there were a lot, obviously 50-50 hens to roosters, and so roosters were more natural to kind of break off and create their own bachelor flocks, or to just, they got ousted from this group of hens, and so they would be wandering alone, individual, not with anybody else, until they found a new pair. So it doesn't surprise me at all that, some roosters are just a little bit more independent.
Wow.
Yeah,
I learned so much new stuff.
Yeah, you should write a book or something. I feel like your knowledge needs to be spread a lot more.
I am working on a website because as much as I do love Facebook, I even hate cringing saying that. I feel like all that information is great, but it could just go away at any moment. And I am trying to work on the website just to get all of that information in one place. And so people who are not on Facebook can go and still see and get the power of that information.
I have done the same thing with. I feel like I don't want to be taking paid to write something. I want everyone to could afford to read something about the animals. It should be free, and I have written a lot for Reineck, like why I started researching and writing like that. So it's a great choice having, but choose a wise domain so you don't lose all your text. That's my advice.
They definitely don't want to lose all that. I know they used to have things called topics, and then they got rid of them, so we couldn't organize our things. And now we just have the guides, which so I'm like, eventually they're going to change something else, and all my posts are going to be everywhere. And even now it's hard to find them. So putting it onto a website in one organized place will be a lot better. And I completely agree with you. I've never been, one of those people to say, this is my content or my property. I'm like, if anything in my life can somehow benefit another human or another animal or another insect or anything in any way, like, please have at it. Like, you don't even need to ask permission to reuse it. You don't need to tag me as long as you're, using it. And I don't even care if you say it's yours. Like, if you're on a platform where you're going to lie and say it's yours, but you can reach 2,000 more people, good for you. I'm like, it's honestly about helping people and helping the chickens or anything that's alive, really.
And breaking a lot of myths out there.
Yeah, that's actually why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Just so we could share everything that we've been through with the birds.
I think it's a great idea.
But we have another podcast that is more for chickens as livestock and show animals, and of course people tend to go that direction. We are like the outsider for speaking about chickens and ducks and geese as pets, because they're not recognized as pets yet.
We like to be the outsiders.
Trust me, I totally get it. I take my chickens sometimes, like I said, to the gas station and to go pick up or get gas, or just little trips to get them used to like the outdoors, being in the car, moving around, the special needs ones, obviously. And I get so many looks. I'm just so used to being the person going, you can have a chicken as a pet? Wait, and they're smart? Wait, and it's got a diaper on and it lives indoors?
That's so cute.
I definitely am used to, getting the looks. But it is great to break all of those myths, and it is very cool to see them a lot more, in the last couple of years being in, television and whatnot. I even just learned, I was reading something about the Wizard of Oz and the creator, I forget his name, L.F. Baum or something. He bred some of the first really big show chickens, I guess, and brought them maybe to America. I don't know. I'm going to be a terrible paraphrase. Don't listen to me. I don't know anything. But, he had something to do with chickens. And I watched the movie Wicked for the first time, and they put chickens in the movie. There's like 2 scenes, and I was like, chickens. And when I realized that, he had a connection, I was like, that's why they did it. So it is cool to see that all kind of coming up more. And the more it's in mainstream media and the more people you can pull at their heartstrings to get involved, the more it's just going to be helpful for them. I also want to say, too, the livestock and the, show breeds, because a lot of people see us as like having pet roosters or seeing them as loved ones, think that Rooster Allies wouldn't be a place for them. And I wanted to mention that we accept all kinds of people, whatever type of, source that you are using your chickens for, that is okay with us. We do not judge. If you eat your chickens, that's fine. The only thing we ask is that we don't, you don't talk about it in our group, because our group is like a safe place, as we call it. So we don't have to hear about people kicking their roosters or frying them in a pot or whatnot. So we don't judge. We accept all of that. We just try to maintain ourselves as a safe place. And I meant to mention yesterday when I was on, we were all over the place, but the story about my ex where he was like, let's get chickens. They're real easy, throw them food and water, is that he was also from a mindset of, he grew up, with the farm and that live chicken were livestock. And me, I grew up whereas anything that's alive, I must somehow love it. And so we just came from very different perspectives. It wasn't that one or the other was necessarily wrong, just that I won out. I said, nope, they're going to be pets. So, it's from a livestock perspective, things are easier. You don't worry about them as much. You're just worried more about their production or their quality of meat or how many eggs you can get out of them. So it's just a different perspective. It's not necessarily right or wrong. But yeah,
it's a good before we are cut off for the 60 minutes, it's a very good ending to this episode, and we are really grateful for picking your mind, and we feel like we should do this more. I think we should have another episode with you more with cross-beak care, but I think Emily and I have to think about some more questions and thoughts about cross-beaks, and so we can go more into depth about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I
it
could
isn't
talk
tomorrow,
forever
it
about
will be later on.
We won't hug
Yeah,
you.
but
You will have your Easter holiday right now.
It's all right. I don't celebrate holidays. Every day I have to get up for chicken, so there's no holiday there. But yeah, so absolutely, I would love to get together and talk with you guys more about crossbeak. So shoot me over those questions, and until we meet again.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really, really fun. And
it was so
I'm
great.
It was a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Alltså, jag får bara mer och mer frågor.